Good evening, Tippecanoe County 4-H Electric members. This is for the Advanced Division, and I wanted to give you some updates about our county fair this year. We are going to have a judging for the projects, and you will get some notifications coming up about how to get your project checked in and dropped off at the fair. We will not have an in-person judging this year at the fair, but what we will have is where you can drop off your project, get it judged, and pick it up the same day. And so I'm going to talk about some of the projects that some of the 5th year through 10th year members may be interested in having, and some ways to prepare for that. And I wanted to talk with you about that. So the main thing is, if you're going to make a display board with something that represents a wall of a house, a fuse box, or a breaker box, anything that has electrical equipment mounted on it, we would ask that you would leave the covers undone, the switches unscrewed out of the boxes, and leave those loose so that our judges can access those easily. One other option for you to do is to take very good detailed pictures and include a notebook along with your project. It's always a great idea to include some kind of narrative and some pictures along with a display board or a project that you may be exhibiting at the fair, so that the judges can read through that. And especially now that we are not having any in-person judging or community judging, open judging as we call it here in our county, they will not have the chance to ask you questions, and you will not have a opportunity to show them the knowledge that you have learned by working on your project. So the way that you can do this is by not only writing down information and including it or posting it on your display board or your project, but also making some kind of short notebook. Now, your notebook does not have to be a very large document, but it will help. The more information you put on it, the more information that you are able to share with the judge and tell them about each step of your project. Some of the important things that we look for while judging in the electric project is for you to tell us what type of materials that you used and why you selected them. So if you have a wiring circuit that you're putting on the board with an outlet or a switch and a light, and you're connecting this in your home, or you may want to give a demonstration on how to do this, you would need to tell us why you selected the gauge of wire that you chose to use for your project. If you choose to use a small gauge wire, 14 gauge wire, and you have a 20 amp circuit that you are putting that on or connecting it to, wiring it to, that would not be safe to use. And so you would want to tell a judge that you've got a 20 amp circuit that this would be connected to, and that you are choosing to use 12 gauge wire in that case. Or if you're using 14 gauge wire, that your circuit is protected by a breaker or a fuse at the 15 amp rating. So this kind of information would be very important for you to share with the judge and put this information on it. It is very difficult to put as much information as you need to make a successful and a well-explained project just on a poster board or a poster board size display. Even a larger display, the 3x3x3 display that we may see at some of the fairs in the past. And I believe that the new rules do not have any limitations on the size of that, but you do want to keep it within reason, so that you don't want a 4x8 sheet of drywall and a single light switch and a receptacle that would not be appropriately sized, and the judge may count off for that. So do pick the appropriate size for your display if you are going to make something to bring in. This is a great time to make a notebook, as I mentioned, for other projects also. So you may do a consumer buying report. There are many different types of appliances that people are looking at buying, upgrading, maybe some kind of evaluation of what appliance they're looking at replacing. You may do an installation of an appliance such as a dishwasher or something that needs wired into your home, or you may need to upgrade your wiring in order to add maybe a dryer or maybe a refrigerator, some kind of special purpose circuit for that appliance that you are going to be purchasing. So that would be a good addition to your consumer report if you are going to attempt to do a consumer report. Also, your 5th division through 10 is going to allow you to do electronic projects. So you can do an electronic project if you would like to do so, either design your own or buy a kit and assemble for your project. The best thing to do is, if you do build a project, is to, again, attach a notebook with as much information and explanation about what you went through to construct the project, maybe some pictures, any challenges that you may have come across, and the information that you did learn about constructing the project. Most judges do not expect that you have the ability to design your own circuit, and many of our judges may not even be well versed in electronics. So you may need to educate not only the public and your friends that you're going to be sharing your project with, but our judges also about how the project works, maybe some of the circuitry, some of the simple basics about what the circuit does, how it works, and how to operate it, and what to look for. Again, if you are assembling an electronic project, we would ask that you would leave that accessible so that the judges can look at the soldering on the back side of the printed circuit board if you are doing that, or a point-to-point board. So please leave that open so that the judge can access that and get to your board to be able to do some judging for that. Now, it's important that most projects, electronic projects, do not come with a case to mount it in. And this is what I would suggest to work on to be presentable, or to finish it, to polish off the project and finish it up very nicely, is build some kind of box or find a box to mount it in, and mount it nicely, and use your imagination to create some kind of enclosure to display that and make that useful. So in the past, some of the projects may be like a Simon Says game or a quiz bowl game, where there's contestants that have a entry button or some type of device to buzz in, and you may have some LEDs or some kind of indication lamps to notify who was the first person to buzz in. And so you may want to build like a box that you would sit on the table with the electronics mounted inside, along with the power supply or battery, and everything mounted so that it looks like a consumer grade product that you might buy at the store. If it's just something that's laying out and is not fastened to anything, it may not look very attractive, and may create a problem if it shorts out, or it has any problems that somebody sits it down on something that is metal, or would short that circuit out. So we want you to mount that nicely and professionally so that it looks nice and finished for your project. Don't be afraid to explore. You may not have projects in your home that you are familiar with, that you are going to be able to build. So if you don't have anything, ask around for your grandparents, ask around for your neighbors, ask around for your friends, your parents' friends. They may have something for you to replace, upgrade, or to install for them. And this is a great opportunity for you to have them pay you a little bit of money and make some money by doing some electrical work for them, and then also having them buy some of the supplies. Now, again, if you're going to install a product in your home and you're not able to take it to the fair, this is typically something that, like in home wiring, that is very acceptable to do. But again, you'll want to create a nice notebook in order to do the steps, take lots of pictures of each of the steps that you're doing, talk about the planning process, the purchasing of the materials, the installation, and then also the finish up and any other additional details that you may need to include in that. It's also recommended and advised for all of our projects in the advanced divisions to create some kind of a budget and to show the expenses. So some type of ledger that shows what the project did cost for you to do it. Now, you may have some materials at home, and that is fine to use those, but do include those in the cost. So if you have some wire that's already in your home that you are in your shop that you may have, you may want to include that in there and say that the wire is, $12 for a 25-foot roll, and that was included in the cost of the project, even though you may have not purchased that for specifically this project. You may have had it left over from another project. But do include that so that you have the information about the budget and the expenses that you do spend on your project. That's helpful for our public to know what they are looking at, an expense of doing an upgrade or change or installation of some kind of electrical equipment in their house or whatever the project is covering. So please include that. If you have any questions or information, please don't hesitate to contact me and get some additional ideas. I know that our fair is coming up in about 1 month here, so that you'll have plenty of time to get together and start planning and purchasing and wiring and building your project. And again, since this year is going to be a closed judging, it is best for our judges if you do leave as many covers off and outlets unscrewed if you do take a physical project. And if you would like to do a notebook, this is a great opportunity to take all those pictures and include that in the notebook so that the judge can judge that just as they were if they were looking at the project itself. So it's important to get good close-up pictures of the wires around the screws, the wire sizes that you used, how you may have connected the wires, and also can include a schematic in anything that you might have done. So that would be very helpful for our judges to have all that information. Good luck on your projects, and I hope to see everyone at the fair here. And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us.